we teach them in-demand tech skills in UX design, which is what Charlotte did, the UX design program, the UI design, web development, data analytics, and we just released digital marketing. And there are some more on the way, so watch this space. If anybody's interested in anything other than UX design, we're also offering other programs. We've got a community of over 3,500 active students, graduates, mentors, tutors. So every student at CareerFoundry gets a mentor and a tutor. That's our dual mentorship model, which we have, and also a team of career specialists helping everybody getting their dream career in tech. Now, I don't want to steal Charlotte's thunder, so I'm going to disappear into the background. We will be recording this presentation just in case anybody wants to watch it later. Yeah, without further ado, Charlotte, you have the floor. I'm disappearing.
Okay, thanks, Will. And hi, everyone. It's really nice to be here. Thank you to CareerFoundry for having me again. And thank you to any and everyone who's actually come to see me for a second time, because I did something last month. So hi and welcome wherever you are from. So here's just a little rundown of the things that we'll talk about today, just so you can get an understanding of it. Firstly, about CareerFoundry, that's done. So hopefully, if you haven't joined and you'd like to, by all means, book a call with someone. I'll give you a little rundown about myself, agency life, because I currently work with UX design agency. Daily stuff, the contentious word daily stuff, and I'll tell you why shortly, but daily stuff, projects and tasks. Things like dealing with clients, the tools that I use, the resources that I use, the skills that are transferable. That one's actually really important. And this is a long list where I think Will might have to stop me. Things I wish I knew before I started out. I will be honest, the list is very long, probably longer than this, that I've got time to tell you now, but let's get through it. And if you like these images, which Will said he did earlier, they are by Doodle Ipsum, and that's a really cool little illustration website if you're ever looking for any inspiration on your own work. So I use all these things because I'm not a graphic designer. So I would just look for things like Doodle Ipsum and put it in there. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, I know Will. We went to university together in Sheffield in England. I did a history degree, and then after that I did a history master's. And then I kind of did a few odd jobs, and then I thought, you know what the world needs? More primary school teachers. So I became a primary school teacher. And you might think, what has that got to do with product design? A lot, surprisingly. You'd be surprised. And I'll explain that more when I get to the transferable skills later. I was a traveler. I lived in Australia for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. And that's actually quite significant because that's when I started studying with CareerFoundry. So I came back to England in March 2020, and all the schools were closed, and there was no jobs anywhere. So I thought, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself because I don't have a job? So I started learning how to do things like Photoshop and all the Adobe suite, and through XD, which if you haven't used is another program that you can use to prototype and wireframe, I found out about UX. And so that's when I thought, okay, you know what, this is the time. And many of you might have been the same or might be in the same position. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to change my life now. So I thought I'm going to do some research. I studied around. I went to a few webinars like this one, and that's partly how I got my job. And if you want to know about that, I mean, if you want to look at my other webinar, please do, but you can have a look at it there. So I studied with CareerFoundry, and I landed a job last November with Momentum Design Lab, and my current title is product designer, UX product designer, but I'm really a junior. This is what my contract says. So the first thing I thought I'd talk about is agency life, because UX is not the same, from what I understand, across all the spectrums. You've got in-house designers that might work for one company, like maybe Apple or maybe Spotify. But with an agency, it's completely different. And it might make sense to a lot of you, but for me, I think I would have liked to have had it kind of explained to me. So an agency is basically, I have myself and my colleagues, and people basically hire us out for all of their UX needs. So agency life means that we get lots of clients in all the time. We're always signing up new people. So Momentum Design Lab is based in California, but they've got offices in London. And I think we're trying to start to open up the offices in New York and in Sydney as well. But yeah, basically people hire us out to do their UX jobs. So it's very fast paced. I don't have leisurely time this afternoon to just be able to take it off. Any time that I take off to do this webinar, I've got to go and give back to the company, because we're hired out by clients, we are billable. So we have different clients all the time. And so it's very fast paced. And it's something, I'll be honest, I've been in the job since November. So that's about 6 months. I'm still getting used to it. I'm not going to lie. It can be very, very fast paced. So because we're an agency as well, we have multiple projects and multiple client types, and it shows the real diversity of the field. And I'll talk about the projects in a second. So you'll see in my 6 months what I've already worked on, but they're in different lengths. So because we can act as kind of like a consultancy, we could have something like, I'm starting one next week where it's only 3 weeks long, and we give them maybe a little bit of a design that's fully fledged and they can send it to their developers. And I mean just a little bit, because 3 weeks isn't a long time. Or we could give a vision concept and say, this is where we see your product going, and this is how we could develop it more in the future. So it could be 3 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, it could be 16 weeks. One of the projects I'm working on has been working for a really long time. In fact, way before I even started. So obviously, if you're dealing with different clients from different backgrounds and it's changing all the time, you have to be adaptable. And I do my best to be as adaptable as I can. I'm very fortunate, and this is a plug to my company. I love Momentum. The people I work with are literally the best people. I couldn't ask for any more support. So to have a good team around you really helps you to adapt. So if you're looking for a UX job, it's not just, oh, do I fit the company? Does the company fit me? And I was very lucky in the first conversations with my director that, yeah, this company really suits me. So being adaptable like that, I was lucky. So as I say, 6 months, I have been part of, what does it say there, like 5 different projects. These are different lengths. And I kind of dipped in and out of some of them, and then I've kind of completed some end to end. So to varying degrees, these have been the Indian accountancy software. I dipped in and out of that one, supported another more senior designer. Israeli travel app, that was an interesting one. That was my first end-to-end project back in December. That was 3 weeks. The Indian accountancy one, by the way, is still going. It's one of those longer engagement ones. So you're kind of building out a whole project. There was a crypto app that I'm dipping in and out of. So sometimes you might have a product that is already existing and they want to improve their UX on it. So that's the case with the first 3. But the second 2 are brand new projects. So my director sold my job to me as, hey, there's a little organization known as the WHO. Do you want to work for them? And I just thought, I mean, where do I sign? Because someone who's loved history and things like that, who's studied things like the UN and the WHO, that was literally a dream come true for me. So I just thought, I'm going to do anything to get this job. So I'm currently still working, and it's a really long project, on a WHO community platform. And then next week is a 3-week burst, as we call it, where it will be a health visualization app. And that's also a brand new concept for them. So as I say, could be brand new. It could be something that's pre-existing that they want to update. It's different lengths. So as you can tell, it's a little bit time management-y. And I'll get to that in a minute as well. So daily stuff, projects and tasks. Now, if you've ever watched any person talk about their UX day, their UX life, you will know every day is different. And I feel like the millionth person to say that, but it's so true. You start your day thinking it's going to be one way, and then actually it turns to be something completely different. So what is a day composed of? Meetings. Not going to lie, there are a lot of meetings. There's some YouTube people, I apologize, I can't remember their names, but I was looking at them and they showed their calendars, and it's just full of meetings. And you think, gosh, where do you get the time to do work? And sometimes, I'll be honest, it's a struggle. But there are lots of meetings because you need to sync with a lot of people. So they could be a pre-planned meeting, which I'll talk about in a second as well, because I'm going to talk about kind of how I deal with clients, or how we deal with clients, because it's really not just me. So there could be pre-planned client meetings or team meetings, or little meetings every now and again that you just want to talk about something. It can range from 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes to hours, literally, depending on what you're talking about. We have meetings, obviously, with our clients, of which I have 2 at the moment, and also with the team. So we have team syncs twice a week at the moment. We're thinking maybe adding it another time a week, so we can just kind of get together. We have some just as designers, and we have some with our non-designer colleagues as well. So we have like differentiators there. And then sometimes we will have like strategy meetings. We will be presenting our designs in those meetings. We will be a lot of discussion. And you know what? You'd be surprised. A lot of this can't be done in an email. You know, that old thing like, oh, I'm sick of Zoom. Why are we doing it like this? Why can't we do it in an email? It's actually really helpful in these, because then you can, get the ideas and the discussions in real time. So a lot of the time is meetings. And then a lot of the rest of the time is like production time or design time. I can't say it's going to be design exactly, but things related to the design at least. So obviously we would do a lot of research. Those of you who are already in UX the course, or if you know about UX, you'll have to do a lot of research beforehand. You're going to have to like research the product competitors. You're going to need to research the users where you can. And this is another one of those things. It depends on the time of the project, how long we have, depending on if we can talk to those users and how much we talk to them. Sometimes, and again, if you've seen like any designer memes or anything like that, it's desirable to talk to users, and it's not necessarily something you always get time to do. But it's user experience, not product owner or project manager experience. So we try to get it in there where possible. Some of the other kind of design related or production related things I've done recently is, attending interviews, user interviews, and note taking and analyzing those notes. So if you've done, what's the name of it? So you get loads of Post-its and you put them all together into little groups so that you can see the commonalities of them. I've done that a lot recently. Of course, wireframing and prototyping, and the WHO project that I'm working on at the moment is a lot of QA, which is quality analysis, because we're building it with the dev team at the same time as designing it. So we need to make sure that it's working so that the client is happy. And again, not going to lie, I'll be real with you. Multiple projects means time management. That is something I definitely need to continue to work on. But time management for an agency worker, and I think, for most workers, let's be real, is something that's really important. So the moral of the story with daily stuff, no 2 days are the same. Don't expect it to be. Adapt with the days. So the next thing is dealing with clients. Obviously, it's the most important thing. I obviously don't know very much about how it works in-house. I can only talk about it from an agency perspective. And dealing with clients means meeting them quite often. You need to keep their expectations at the right level. You need to understand what they need from you, what you can give to them, and all such things like that. So some clients are happy to do it 2 times a week, probably for an hour each time, maybe an ad hoc one in between. Some clients want it every day. I've had a project where the client wanted it every day because they just felt that that was the best way for them to manage the product. So it depends on the client. But to be honest with you, at my level, at junior level, and honestly, I would say if you want to go into this and you want to do a mid-level job or like just a plain UX job, you better be good at it. Everything you put on your CV, if you say, yeah, I can do user interviews. All right, well, you better be able to do that then. So if you can go in at the junior level, do, so that you can really take the time to learn, and grow with the process. Who is it? Miguel M. I watched one of his webinars. He did one with CareerFoundry a while ago. He said, trust the process. So do trust the process. So I'm a junior. I am happy. And I'm happy to just watch and absorb from my senior designers and my delivery leads, who generally lead the dealing with the clients. But as I get more experienced, I'm understanding that, okay, I can do this, and I'm chipping in a little bit more. So dealing with clients means creating timelines, for example, sprints. You may have heard of it. I've got so many like sprint books back there I haven't read yet. But yeah, creating timelines, setting realistic expectations. You can't say in 3 weeks, we're going to build you out a whole website. It doesn't work like that. So you have to make sure that the expectations are managed, and then to divide and prioritize work. So I'm the kind of person who at the moment, in the future I won't be, but I'll be the first to admit that, yeah, you know what, if you can give me, tell me what you'd like me to do and give me some structure, I can do that. So the senior designers, as I say, and the delivery leads are the ones who really deal with the clients. Building rapport is one thing that I've found, and I'm shocked as anybody, that I'm kind of good at. Like just getting to know the clients and talking to them like human beings, and then trying to draw out what I can of my UX knowledge. So I have found, and this is again going to the transferable skills, that your background and the things that you know and the things that you've done are actually kind of important to help you to get those relationships with people. And I cannot ever, and I'm going to say it like 2 or 3 more times, I cannot emphasize enough how important relationships are in the UX community and building networks. Network is a bit of a nasty word, but if I don't know if CareerFoundry still have it, I hope that they do will. But Jeffrey Coleman, he did like a really good series of networking webinars for CareerFoundry last year that I went to, and that really helped me to get my job here. And funnily enough, Jeffrey contacted me the other day, and he was like, "Hey, Charlotte, why don't we catch up? Why don't we have a conversation, see how things are going?" So keeping those relationships instead, don't call it networking. It's not a good word. Relationships together are like super important to help you get through UX. So I found that my travel background has actually been kind of not important, but at least useful to me. So two of the WH girls are Australians. I lived in Australia. We talk about Aussie stuff. And so I get to build a good rapport with them. And then we can talk about things more freely. The Indian accountancy app is based in Bangalore. I taught in Bangalore for a bit. So I talk about Bangalore and stuff that I know about that. And that helps them to build that relationship with you. So if you think you've got any kind of interesting background, that might actually be a very good benefit to you. So don't think it's not worth anything, because it really is. Dealing with clients also means that over communication is okay. So we never stop growing as UX designers. I can't even tell you what fraction of UX that I know at the moment, because the pie is big. So I still have a mentor from ADP List, and he's fantastic. And he said to me, "Charlotte, over communicate. Don't just sit there and squirm. If you have something that you need to talk about, make sure you communicate it with the client. Make sure you communicate it with your colleagues. Ask those questions and extract the info. Don't be afraid to be the stupid. I am afraid to be the stupidest person in the room. I'm not going to lie, but you've got to try not to be. That's something I'm trying to break out of. So over communicating and asking questions is important, and also sharing documentation, because we don't work in the same place. We work in different time zones, we work in different places. So sharing all that documentation is really important. But you know what? I was honestly terrified of dealing with clients to start with. It is kind of scary. But with the right support and with more practice, you actually get a lot better at it. So yeah, dealing with lots of clients can be fun, but kind of intimidating sometimes too. I'm going to take some water, because I talk too much. That's one of the things my director told me. So these are pretty quick, which is good news for you. The tools that I've used so far, honestly, this is just so far. This is not obviously an exhaustive list of all the UX UI tools that you can use. There are plenty of them. There are loads that you use through the CareerFoundry course, for example. The main thing that we use is Figma. And that's one thing I wish I'd learned before, Figma. XD is good, but Figma is so much better. FigJam is also wicked. So if you don't use Figma and you have time, maybe try Figma. I've yet to find a good Figma course. I'm kind of like learning as I'm going. But it's definitely a great tool. But a lot of the tools I use are productivity. So Azure is where we collect all our bugs for the system. Microsoft Teams is apparently taking over the world right now. Obviously, that's how we communicate. Zoom is how we communicate. Harvest is literally, that's where I put my time in, because it's all billable, and I need to know, my company needs to know, okay, so I need to give the WHO this much, and I need to give these people this much of Charlotte's time. So it's literally just timesheets. Google Drive. Yes, we use Google Drive to store a lot of our information. So we might just upload everything we have from a client into Google Drive, so that everybody who's on the project has access to it in one centralized space. And that just happens to be the space that we use. Slack, obviously. We use Slack on CareerFoundry as well. I use that quite a lot. Monday is kind of like a Jira software, like a project management kind of thing, just to tell us, what we're doing and how. So some resources, I say some, there is an infinite number of resources. And as you can see in like the bottom right-hand corner there, it says, find resources you need on an as and when basis. Again, trust the process. You can't learn everything you need in the moment, because your brain gets saturated. So if you're working on something to do with maybe user interviews, that's when you do your research on user interviews. And I'll just go to the next screen real quick there. I organize them like this. This is my bookmarks in Chrome. My colleague told me about some other great, I can't find it, but he told me about some other great thing that you can have to store all of your resources. But make sure when you find something you really like, put it in a folder so that you can go back to it, and maybe use like a web highlighting tool or something, so that you're not like looking through the whole thing again, that you can just see those highlight bits. So yeah, have a look for a web highlighter. Those things are really cool. But some of the books that these are the ones that I've actually read. There are so many books that I haven't read. If you don't know The Design of Everyday Things, it's a standard, do read it. It's fantastic. Don't Make Me Think, Steve Krug, also very good book. And I didn't have to think when I read the book. So that shows that he was really good at writing it. So I enjoyed that. One of my colleagues, he recommended Steal Like an Artist. I didn't know about this when I was really doing the Career Foundry course. I thought, I have to come up with all the ideas myself. I have to be, the best at doing this. And if I don't do that, then I'm not good enough. No, wrong. Steal Like an Artist. Look at the best people who do it. If you're doing like an e-commerce platform, look at those ones and think, okay, I like the way that this one does this. I like the way this one does that. And if you kind of take like little bits from the people who do it really well, then that's a really good way of doing it. Because if you steal like all of Facebook and how they did it, then that's just stealing. But if you kind of get inspired by a lot of other people, that's the best way to do design. So it's a really quick book. Do I have it here? No, I brought it back to the office. But it's a really good short book. Read that. And then and this is something I wish I'd known earlier, and I'll get into it, but a lot of design is not just design. It's about product. It's about business. It's about being able to there's no point us doing UX if nobody's going to use it. And the point is for people to use it. So product-led growth is something that my director recommended that we read. And actually it's really good to help to develop good selling products. So those are some books that I recommend. By all means, not all of them. General Google, seriously. Google is your best friend. My colleagues are always Googling. I'm always Googling because I don't remember everything. So have a look on there. Have a look on Instagram. I follow lots of people on Instagram who UX UI designers. Like, for example, Maureen, who always does things for Career Foundry here. I follow her as well. So I get some inspiration and ideas from there. From LinkedIn, if you don't follow UX UI people, if you're not connected to them, do. It's kind of subsided. There was a time where everybody was like, oh yeah, what do you prefer, X or Y? And everybody had a real problem with that. You might know what I'm talking about. It's not so full of that anymore, which is good. So you can get a lot of design inspiration from people on LinkedIn. And general things like the Figma community. Figma community is really good. Don't reinvent the wheel trying to like create your own version of this. No, just people put it on the community for a reason. So if you haven't used it, do use it. Colleagues are a really good resource. I've got one particular colleague, God love him. I bug him all the time. He's fantastic. Shout out Mikey, if you do actually get around to watching this. But colleagues are a really good source of information, especially people on the project. And then, as I said before, like Google, you can Google your competitors. Competitor research is an important part of UX. And if you can use those as resources and Steal Like an Artist, not the whole thing, just little bits, that will serve you well. I'll go quickly through the designs because we mainly use Dribble, but you've got Behance, sorry, I can't pronounce it right. Awards, patterns. Another one that I did forget is mobbin.design. So that actually goes through the flow instead of just like having screenshots of websites. So mobbin.design, that one's good. And then kind of like bloggy things, UX Collective is really good. Nielsen Norman Group, obviously, fantastic resource. Smashing Magazine, again, fantastic resource. Medium and really good UX. But honestly, I don't go on to Nielsen Norman Group and type in whatever I'm looking for. If I'm typing something in Google or whatever search engine you use, and Nielsen Norman Group happens to be in those search results, I will go to that one, or I'll go to Smashing Magazine because I know that they're really good for that. So those are just some things that I found. And I don't know if Will's putting this presentation up anywhere, but they are all hyperlinked if you wanted to go check them out. I'm sorry, I hyperlinked all of the books to Amazon. I know I shouldn't, I'm naughty, but I did. So anyway, don't forget to put your resources in a good list so that you can access them next time. As you can see, I'm a little bit of an organization freak. So here's something that I love. I will try not to go on about too much, but I was surprised when I got into UX. And I'm sorry, I'm thinking about something. A week of my life as UX product designer. It's encompassing a little bit more than that, but thank you for sticking around. Transferable skills are really important. And I don't think I quite appreciated how much they are important. So here are some, not an exhaustive list. Can I just say, you're probably looking at thinking, Charlotte, you've missed this, you've missed that. And yeah, I have. but it's not an exhaustive list, but some of the ones that were prominent to me that I thought really matter in the UX job. Obviously, you see it everywhere. One of the top skills is empathy. And I think it's not just exclusively being a teacher, and some teachers may not have empathy, but I think being a teacher, my background there, allowed me to have more empathy. So it's empathy with the end user, thinking, okay, what's the best experience for them? But also empathy for the client that I'm working with too. And I'm trying to think, okay, so why do they want it that way? And just seeing things from other people's perspectives, and even your colleagues, if they're struggling with something or whatever, empathy is good all round. I think it's just an all round good human trait, but in UX, it actually is really helpful. Obviously, collaboration is important. Our whole job is kind of collaborating, unless, even if you are a freelancer, and I do know some freelancers, you have to collaborate with people at all junctions. And so that also links below, which is communication. So I'm forever firing off Slacks, I'm forever firing off emails, like having huddles or Google Meets, always communicating with people and having that collaborative nature actually does set you apart. Because if you've had a job, there's always someone who is not collaborative, who's not willing to share or something like that, and you think, I don't really want to work with that person too much, and you kind of avoid them. Don't be that person. Collaborate and communicate with the people around you. Trust me, they'll appreciate it, and so will you. This might sound like maybe a little bit of a funny one, and I do it the best that I can, but a positive attitude actually gets you really far, and a willingness to grow and learn. So I'm going to kind of group those together. So I am 34. I was a teacher for a couple. I have a point, I promise. I was a teacher for a couple of years. I've been to university like 3 times, and it showed a willingness to grow and learn, to realize that I don't know everything, but I have that willingness to at least try. I'm not just going to sit there and wait for somebody to give me orders. I'm going to be proactive about it. And that positive attitude as well. Like, I'm going to throw things at you. And yeah, it's going to be scary sometimes. Trust me, I've been scared. I've cried. Not going to lie. But just picking yourself up and going through it is actually really important too. And I think, talking to my director, one of the things that really helped me to get my job was that positive attitude and willingness to grow and to learn. And I had a track record of that with my university attendance. So if you have that, and if you're looking for your first job, those are things that maybe you want to show. So I did heaps of webinars. Not I didn't present them, but I attended heaps of webinars on here, and I'd write it up all the time. And that's showing I'm learning still. And then here is all my university stuff, and it shows that I'm willing to learn. So actually, it's really important, because wherever you are, you could be a principal, lead designer. You don't know everything. Don't ever think that you do. I'm sorry if you think you do. I'm here to tell you that you don't, but that's okay, because if you have that willingness to grow and learn, you will keep expanding. So keep going. Another thing that's really important is presentation and storytelling. Again, as a teacher, I did it literally every day to 30 children. So imagine, if you haven't been a teacher, 30 children, you're trying to engage them, you're trying to be a good storyteller to them, to help them to understand that information and keep people engaged. And I've kept 142 of you engaged, so I'm not doing too badly. But storytelling is also really important too. And that's something I'm still working on. One of the former principal designers at Momentum is really good at storytelling, because people understand it. And again, another webinar that I went to, and I'm really awful with pronouncing her name because I'm a terrible English person, but Henrika, I think she still works with CareerFoundry. She did a really good presentation on storytelling. So if you want to have a look through the archives, have a look at how she did that. To be fair, I need to look at my notes as well. Research, obviously really important. I have a history of research. That's great, because it helps me to do my user research better, my product research better. Organization. I'm relatively organized. Need to be more organized. But if you've got your files everywhere and you're trying to present to somebody, or you're trying to find something in the moment, particularly when you're working in a fast-paced environment, you kind of need to sort that out. So organization is really important. I've mentioned it before. Time management is important. Still working on it. Be the first to be honest with you about that. And I've mentioned it before. Building rapport, building relationships. They are so important. So within the place that you work, so within Momentum, within all the clients that I work with, it's important to build rapport with them. It's important to build rapport with the wider network. And, you know, as I say, Jeffrey Coleman, he said, hey, Charlotte, let's have a talk. Or my mentor would contact me every now and again, say, hey, Charlotte, how's it going? I've made, you know, little UX friends here and there. So you don't have to be, you know, building rapport with everybody all the time. You can pick and choose a few. I think that's where I struggled a bit with building rapport and building relationships and networking. Felt like I had to do it with everybody all the time. I don't think that's feasible, particularly when you're working. So build rapport, find the right people, find your tribe, and yeah, start to develop a relationship with them. So these are some, they're not all soft skills, that I think are super important for being a UX designer. And then we go to my favorite part, things I wish I'd known before. Oh my God, I could literally stay. I'm not going to, but I could literally stay here all evening and talk about the things that I wish I'd known before. One of my colleagues told me about this. So when you kind of get into a new job, I'm sure most of you have had this before, you kind of feel a bit rubbish after a little bit. And this is pretty much the Dunning-Kruger effect. I always call it the Diane-Kruger effect. It's not. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. And that encompasses me, at least, and I think a lot of people very well. So as you can see, we've got, I can't remember which is the X and the Y. This is why I don't teach anymore. But you've got your confidence on one axis and your competence on another. And so when you start, like, I'll be honest, when I came out of the CareerFoundry course, I was like, yeah, I know so much. I'm so good. So I was at the peak of Mount Stupid, so they call it. And then when I kind of got into, and don't let this put you off, honestly, because everybody goes through it. Nobody knows everything. Peak of Mount Stupid. And then you kind of realize how much there is to learn and how you've just kind of touched. And to be fair, wherever you go to study, you will always be just touching the top of the iceberg. You go from the peak of Mount Stupid down to the valley of despair. And you know what? I think this is kind of a little bit too linear. I think it goes more like this. You go into that pit of despair sometimes, but you go down to the valley of despair and like, oh God, I really don't know very much. But that's okay, because you start going up the slope of enlightenment, and obviously everybody's slope of enlightenment is not going to be so smooth, and it's not necessarily going to be, quite so steep. Mine's probably like that. But then you get to the plateau of sustainability. I'm not there yet. I don't know what that's like. But this is kind of like how everybody feels. So if you've started a new job, or you're about to start a new job, or you're thinking about it, go in with that confidence. But also know that it will get better when you don't feel good. That's something I need to remind myself as much as anyone else. But yeah, so I wish I'd known that this is kind of how I was going to feel before, because maybe it wouldn't have been such a shock to me when it came around to it. So Dunning-Kruger effect, Diane-Kruger effect, or whatever. One of the things that I do wish I'd known before, so I love the way that things look. I like the way that things work. I did UX with UI specialism, and I was thinking, I'm going to make it look so pretty. And I need the UX to work, of course. That's great. At the end of the day, it's business. You can have the best UX in the world, but if you don't manage to pull anybody in with it, then you're not really doing your job right. The whole point of UX is business. You know, people want to sell a product at the end of the day. So as long as your design links with the client's intentions, that's the most important thing. And this is linked to the next bit there with presentation, is that you've got to explain your designs and how it matches with the client's intentions or expectations. So you can't just kind of go off. I mean, it sounds obvious, I know, but you can't just go off and design whatever you want. You kind of need to think, you need to think of what the client wants and how you can best serve that. And I remember thinking on my, you cover that in the CareerFoundry course, of course. They talk about this as a business, this is how you can deal with this, that, and the other. But I think it really dawned on me in the UI course when I was designing something, and I designed it in a certain way, and I thought, oh, I'm doing that because that's where I know I'm a bit slow, but I'm doing that because that's going to help the business do this. So that's why I think Product-Led Growth is a really good book, because it helps you to marry your UX with the business intentions. So at the end of the day, UX, yes, but also a business. So getting up on some business smarts in different ways is not going to be a disadvantage. The next bit I did say before, start slow and trust the process. I remember when I was starting out, I saw loads of, not loads, I lie, a couple of people who'd managed to like jump straight into mid roles. And I thought, oh my gosh. Yeah, I was at the peak of Mount Stupid at this point, of course, but I thought, yeah, I can get into a mid role. No, I can't get into a mid role. I learned very quickly that I do need to trust the process. Again, that I haven't said enough times that I don't know everything and I have so much to learn. Yeah, it's always going to be that way. But you don't need to aim high at the start. You don't need to be put off by all those people that have said, yeah, I've started off at mid. I mean, if you started off at mid and you can do it, that is amazing. Like, you are a superstar. Like, congrats to you. I'm very happy to start slow and trust the process. Again, Miguel M., if you don't know him, have a look through the archives. He's got some really good things on that. So give yourself time to grow, and trust in the process. Work through it. Learn those things that you need to know when you need to know them, not like everything all at once. It just doesn't make sense. So trust that process. And here's an interesting one. These are completely unrelated. I do realize that. Don't delete anything. And I don't know why in my like going up to Mount Stupid, I deleted like some of my designs. And then I thought, oh no, I needed that. And then I had to go and like redesign it again. Obviously, if there's something that you don't like at the moment, at least, or it doesn't fit the purpose at the moment, create a new page in your whatever you choose. It might be Figma, it might be XD or whatever, called a graveyard or whatever. Use designs or whatever. Put all of the designs that are rejected in there, because you never know when you might think, actually, that was a good idea. I should bring that back in again. You don't have to redesign it. Or if there was something that didn't work for this project, but that might work for another project, well, let's take it out and maybe repurpose it in a different way for someone else. So don't ever delete your work. Put it in a graveyard. You don't have to look at it if you don't want to, but it's there if you need it. So that was a really good tip that I've learned being here. I'm still going with them. I know I could keep going with all these pages, but I thought that this would be quite an important part. As you can see, I could go on. Work smarter, not harder. When I was doing my UX course, I was teaching full-time at the same time, and I really wish that I had worked smarter and not harder. Like I said before, like I would call them my little Frankensteins now. I would take all those little bits of good examples, best practice, and smush them together. Think, okay, this is what it could look like, and then start to create something from that. So take that good practice. Steal like an artist. If you don't know what a component or a variant is, please learn. Trust me, you will save yourself so much time instead of like, because this is literally what I did. Some of you are going to look at me like, but really, Charlotte, you did that? Yeah, I did. I would just create the individual buttons and I'd copy and paste the buttons. And then when I needed to change something, I would have to change them all individually. That was really stupid. Don't do that. Learn how to use components and variants, and it changes all at once like that. Best practice is steal like an artist again. And again, learn what you need to do in the moment. Don't learn all at once. I could put so many more things in there, but I don't have time. This is something I mentioned before. Don't be afraid to over communicate. I'll be honest, I still am sometimes with my colleagues and with my managers, but I do have a great team and I'm easy. It's more of a personal thing, easing more into it. Don't be afraid to over communicate with people. They will appreciate it. It's better over communicating than sitting there and not having done anything. Don't be afraid to over communicate with the clients, or it could be your in-house clients, or it could be the outside ones like we have. Requests for support and training. So because I am addicted to learning, and I don't keep it all in there, I'm not gonna lie, but I do love learning new things. In the 6 months I worked there, I said to them, I want to go on this training and I want to go on that training. Okay, cool, no problem. So I've been on community management trainings, part of this WHO project, and UX writing training. So Emerson Schroeder used to work with CareerFoundry, and I was very inspired by them. And I said, hey, what kind of UX writing stuff? So is keeping these little networking things going, relationships going. And I said to them, hey, do you have any recommendations? And they said, yeah. How about you try this course? And that's what I'm currently doing. So I'm trying to add value to my team as well by, requesting some training so that I can provide it for them as well. So I have to prepare that presentation at some point. But yeah, don't be afraid to over communicate if there's something that you want to learn. All they can do is say no. And then it could be good things or bad things. So like if I'm not happy with something, I'll say something, or if I'm happy with, I mean, to be fair, as I said before, the Momentum team are like amazing. So I am very lucky. I appreciate that not everybody might be in a situation where you feel comfortable doing that, but do try where you can. And then this is again the relationship thing. Have I emphasized that enough? I'm not sure that I have yet. UX folks are generally really friendly. Like if anybody has, they're friendly. I'm friendly, but I'm often forgetful. So I have people like sending me requests on LinkedIn, and I just kind of don't look at it for ages, and then I get freaked out. So if you send me something cool, I'll get around to it. But it's just that I'm a little bit overwhelmed by it sometimes. But generally, UX folks are really friendly. So reach out to them. So I made a friend. I'm going to call him my friend now, even he's an Arsenal fan. But anyway, beggars can't be choosers. People often offer support on LinkedIn saying, hey, I've got some time for designers. And so when I was really in my learning mode, learning UX, I would reach out to as many people as I could. Honestly, I felt uncomfortable doing it. So if you felt uncomfortable doing it, you are not alone. But the more you do it, the less terrifying it is. So just reach out to them and say, hey, yeah, if you've got half an hour, that'd be great. Hey, if you've got half an hour, that'd be great. So I made a good friend on there, and yeah, we're friends now. So that's good. So people who offer support on LinkedIn, go for it. They can just say no. But these are people who say, I will give you time. So sometimes you ask for time as well. That's a different thing. But anyway, ADP list is amazing. I started on it last year, and I think there was about 1,000 at that point. And now there's like nearly probably over 4,000 mentors. And here's the thing, it's free, which is amazing. And the guy, Felix, who started it, you might have heard of it, but if you haven't, honestly, it's awesome. You can pick mentors from all over the world at different levels, at different companies. The mentor I currently have, I see through ADP list, and I've been seeing him for maybe 5 months now. And he's a superstar. So shout out to Luke. ADP list is a great place. Reach out to people on there as well. I did loads of those things. Connect with speakers. Again, I've mentioned Jeffrey, say, hey, I saw this and I really like this. Pay people a compliment. People like compliments. And then make relationships at your company, with clients and outside. People are friendly. They really are. It's a really amazing community. So reach out. Honestly, I could keep going on with these things, and I feel like I need to take a bit of water. But I think, is my GIF working? My GIF's not working. That's really sad. Dwight's supposed to say questions. I saw it more. It was like, that's a great idea. And now Dwight's just sitting there looking really
staring into space.
That is not the intention there. And I can see we've had an outfit change, but I think that's very nice.
Changing the background. Charlotte, thanks so much for that. We had a lot of questions come through in the meantime. So I'm just going to pick some of the questions out, and we're going to go through them. And let's just...
I'll do my best.
But let's start with... sorry if I pronounced anyone's name wrong. Abhishek, can I learn self-taught UX design with no background in a design field?
Yeah, absolutely. My colleague did exactly that. He's been designing for 6 years now. He's a senior designer. I didn't do it, so I couldn't really recommend places for you to do it. But what I would say is there's a lot of YouTube videos. There is a lot of blogs out there. So just kind of have a look around that for a start. And even if you are doing a course with CareerFoundry or whatever, it's still good to supplement your knowledge with these other things as well. So yeah, absolutely, you can do it. But you have to be disciplined. The reason why I did a course is because I'm not disciplined. Don't tell my boss that. But I like the structure. So you're going to have to figure out your own structure for doing it, but it can definitely be done.
Eric has also got a great question, because he said that you'd studied beforehand. How imperative is it to have a bachelor's or master's in UX or UI design? And will those of us doing boot camps be at a disadvantage to those with additional education?
Can I just say imperative is such a great word. I love that so much. I used to say it all the time. No, so like I only have the CareerFoundry course. I say only. It was a long, intense, long, good, hard course. My colleague, he also did the CareerFoundry course. So that shows that, he appreciated the course, what it could provide as well. But I have, what do I have? What do I have, Will? We went to uni,
You've got a BA in...
I've got a degree in history. I have a master's in history, and I have a PGCE, which is the English equivalent, at least, to teaching. I have no university degrees in UX design. So I wouldn't worry about that at all. But I think one of the things that did make me stand out, not because I'd been to uni 3 times, it's not that. It's just in the process of learning UX design, I showed that, and I'm not just saying this because I think, yeah, I'm great. This is kind of actually what my director told me. It's just that willingness to learn, willingness to do things like this, to come to the webinars, to write things down, to show that I am trying to get all this different knowledge in. So I wouldn't say that you're at a disadvantage. I think you do need to make yourself stand out. That's how I made myself stand out. But I think everybody needs to stand out in this market at the moment. So figure out your way of standing out to make yourself shine. You don't need a UX UI degree, not at all.
Definitely. And that, I think lots of our students would also say that, both past and present. I think Annie's got a great question. What is your most favorite and your least favorite aspect of UX design?
Oh, my most and my least. Oh my gosh. This is it's one of those kind of like very subjective questions, isn't it? What's one of my favorite things? One of my favorite things is like seeing it all come together. Going from the beginning of the project, kind of. I'm a very kind of like visual person. So I would say, okay, there's a cloud of information at the beginning of this project, and I'm not quite sure where it's going. And then you kind of like condense again, you can see I was a primary teacher, can't you? Like thinking of the water cycle. You kind of condense this cloud into like little raindrops, and you can see the little raindrops forming, and then like they form into, oh my gosh, what am I talking about? A puddle, and that's like your final product. So I really enjoy seeing, the process of it, and it feels like a real sense of achievement to get to the end of it and have a happy climb. Something I don't like is being in the valley of despair. Not gonna lie, the valley of despair is scary, and there is so much information that it can be a little bit overwhelming sometimes. So kind of like thinking, oh my gosh, there's all these things hitting you all the time. Trying to deal with that is probably one of the things. It's not something I don't enjoy, but it's also something I struggle with a little bit. There is a lot to learn.
I think some of the valley of despair might also be a tiny bit of imposter syndrome. And if anyone wants anything about that, we've got blog articles and also on the events page, past events about imposter syndrome. I watched it, definitely helped. I feel that's definitely a little stream in the valley of despair.
Yes, I completely agree. There's some really good CareerFoundry ones for that.
Jack is asking, how much is UI design a part of your work on a day-to-day basis?
For me, well, I had a review the other week, and UI design is something I need to continue to work on. So don't worry if your skills in UI aren't the absolute best at the moment. My colleague who I'm working with on project next week, he's probably going to be doing most of the UI. I do it in bits and pieces, but I'm mainly UX focused at the moment. Probably because I did my background in UX design, and probably because there is, again, the UI is kind of, considering how quickly the projects go, the tip of the iceberg. So I'm working more on the iceberg underneath the water part of it. So it's not so much part of my day-to-day at the moment, but I would like it to be.
Another good question, I think, is from Irpa. What kind of career backgrounds do your UX colleagues have?
So some of them, so the principal designer and the 2 senior designers, they have a background in design. So 2 of them have been doing it for 10 years. One of them's been doing it for about 5. I'm one of the oldest ones there. So by the way, if you're like an older career changer, that's cool. Don't worry about it. You don't have to be, because I went through that whole like, oh God, I have to be really young to get to this. No, you don't. It's totally fine. One of them was a self-taught designer, as I mentioned before. I don't know what one of my colleagues has, but another one was a fashion designer. So a fashion designer and a teacher. We're quite small in London at the moment. I don't know about the American group. We're only expanding, but maybe about half, 2/3 do have a design background, but a few of us don't. So that's also fine. Again, those transferable skills, priceless.
Definitely. I can speak from experience because I've also seen lots of graduates come through at CareerFoundry. We've had some incredible stories with people coming from completely unrelated backgrounds. Opera singers, someone who was working as a fireman, I think in Scotland. They're also dotted around the CareerFoundry website. Some of the stories are kind of unreal, but then there's also very traditional, people transferring from a kind of a humanities background or an arts background, or teachers. So lots of different backgrounds. Eric is asking a question. At Momentum Design Lab, are you able to do this from home, or are you required to go to the office every day?
Where do you think I am, Eric? I am at home. When I started, we were fully remote. We didn't even have an office in London when I started. That opened again in January. So we have a nice shiny office in Old Street at the moment. It is encouraged that we come in a couple days a week. So that's good. But we have colleagues who live and work in Slovakia and in Egypt, and they're part of the London office. So obviously they don't have to come into the office. You can work from pretty much anywhere you want as long as you get the work done. So wherever you want, but that's just us.
Love that. I think that's good. I was going to say you're in central London, but
I'm not here, but yeah, central London when we go in.
And on the UX design program, what was the specialization course that you did?
UI. I was toying with both of the other two, surprisingly. There's that whole thing that you go around where it's like, oh, do you need to know how to code to be a UX designer? No, you don't. I think the best that you need is kind of like having at least an understanding of what coding is, maybe how long things take or whatever. But I think communicating with your development team is probably the most important thing there. So if you're thinking, oh, I need to learn how to code. No, you don't. You don't have to do the coding one. The UI sounded really interesting, but because I like the way that things look and I know it's a weak point of mine, UI design. And just a shout out to my former mentor, Benjamin, for just being the best UI mentor. He was so good.
And Justin's asking, what led you to UX design? So when you were considering a career change, like how did you find the UX design and think, okay, this could be something that interests me?
Yeah, good shout. So it's kind of like my background a bit. So going way back to GCSEs, which is like a British exam system. And I did art and I did computing, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting, but I don't know quite what to do with it then. So I kind of let it lie for a little bit. And then when I did my PGCE, my teaching training, I specialized in technology again. And I thought, okay, this is interesting. And then, as I say, when I came back from Australia, I was always interested in kind of doing things to do with design. But I just never thought I was a good designer. It's just like one of those, down on yourself kind of things. But I thought, you know what, I've got nothing better to do. So I'm going to teach myself how to use Photoshop and all that sort of stuff. So that led me to it. And I found out what UX was. And I thought, oh my goodness, that kind of marries everything I'm interested in, technology and design. And it's obviously like a really big growing field. So there's lots of things that kind of contributed to it. And yeah, it's a really good field to be in at the moment. My mum walks dogs and she met a guy from Google who's a developer around the corner. And he's like, yeah, it's really a good field to be in at the moment. So Google one day, man with his dog.
I would have loved to see that. Is the job flexible? So Shani has heard that there are many meetings and it doesn't give you much flexibility.
Yeah, I mean there are many meetings. I suppose it depends what you mean by flexible, because like in relation to the question before, you can work from home. That's pretty flexible. If I don't have meetings that start till 10 and I just really, really want a decent lie-in that day, that's okay, but I will have to make up those hours. So when you have a client call, you kind of have to go to that client call. That's just how it is. But so for example, I'm taking time out of my day to do this, I owe them some time. That's fine. I can do that tonight. I can do that at the weekend, as long as I get it done. That's the important thing. So I think there is a degree of flexibility, but again, I can only speak for what we do, what in-house people do, what other companies want. I don't know. There is a degree of flexibility, but some things you just kind of have to do when you have to do them.
Mm-hmm. And how did you find it was interacting with the CareerFoundry student community? So like joining like a cohort and interacting on Slack. How was that?
Yeah, it was good. We kind of had like a little London group that we were close with. There wasn't very many of us, like 4 or 5 of us that we kind of got together. There's one that I still talk to. In fact, I probably should give her a message sometime soon. But yeah, there wasn't very many of us that talked together, but I found that people were very helpful when you needed some support, when you put it on like the Slack community or something. Honestly, the most helpful person I had was Beth, who was my tutor. I would reach out to her all the time. She knew me. So like if I could get her address to send her flowers, I so would, because that woman is amazing. But I found the student community helpful. It was definitely there, but I found the professionals around CareerFoundry, for me personally, to be more important for me in my development.
And what was the kind of thing that you were asking, Beth? Was it about your kind of the portfolio, or was it about the curriculum, or was it about the industry, or?
Yeah, I think it's about the curriculum itself, and also kind of validation for what you're doing. And I think we all still want it. Like, we had a designers meeting the other day, and we said what kinds of things would we like from each other. So it's like a really supportive community that we have at work. And one of my colleagues was like, some validation for things that I'm doing, because when you're a junior and you're kind of like, you're kind of going in the dark a little bit, you think, am I doing the right thing? So she really helped me out with that. She helped me out when I reached a different valley of despair before the peak of Mount Stupid. So she was like an emotional support. She was very sweet. She was like my counselor too. God love you, Beth.
I think the Valley of Despair has really been a strong metaphor.
I'm so sorry. That's awful, isn't it?
Someone asked a good question. How did you get out of the Valley of Despair?
I'm not. I'm still climbing up that slope of enlightenment. And I've just joined a gym, so I'm getting more fit now. So hopefully I'm going to be able to climb up that slope of enlightenment stronger. But I think the thing is that I have to also remember to just trust that process, because there's sometimes when I will say to myself, oh, I need to get out of this valley really quickly. And it's like, no, it's okay. So yeah, I'm still in it a little bit, but I'm slowly working my way out of it, and I'm slowly being okay with that. And that's just me just being honest. How many times have I said it? There is so much to learn. And if you try and cram it all in at the same time, then it's crazy. So yeah, sorry, still in it a little bit.
Definitely. I think also when you start any job, it's always that you're kind of like at the start of almost like a journey, and like you've got in the door, but then you're still going to have to learn about everything that's happened in the company in the past, but also the new colleagues. It's just a learning process. But I think as long as you're open to that and you're ready to adapt, and you step outside of the kind of a little bit of your comfort zone, I think you can definitely make it happen. How immediately did you get placed in the job after finishing the UX design program?
So I finished. Okay, so it took me a while to do it. See, because as I say, I was teaching at the same time. So I started in September 2020. Yeah, September 2020. And I was teaching all the time until June 2020. And then I did July till October, I think, trying to do the UI course and the job course, because I did the whole job course as well. And then, so I finished that in October, and I got the job in November. And I think a large part of that was being proactive on LinkedIn. If I'm being honest, my director found me on there because of all the stuff I've been doing, all the webinars I've been going to, and things like that. So that's, like, as I mentioned before, that helped me to stand out. Instead of just being another job hunter, just chucking out CVs, he'd seen me and he was like, she's doing good things. So yeah, it was within about a month or 2 months.
But I think that's really great advice in itself, because you really utilize LinkedIn. Also, at the CareerFoundry main office, we definitely saw Charlotte Darcy active. But I think it's a great way. Also, it's a free tool. It's a great way to reach out to different UX designers, and you can ask for advice. And people are actually very up and coming with advice on LinkedIn. So maybe just explain how you kind of went about approach to LinkedIn.
Again, it was Jeffrey and Miguel. Like, if you haven't seen, like, I don't know how far your archives go, Will, but if you haven't seen that, that's really, really good. They were just kind of like, okay, go to an event. I have nothing original to say. I'm not going to lie. I have nothing original to say. It's all like regurgitating what other people do, but I would regurgitate it, and I would like tag them in it, and I would hashtag everything underneath it. And I would do this like 2 or 3 times a week. I was so proactive. I was like, oh my God, who's this girl? But just regurgitate other people's ideas and spread it as far as you can via that way. And it kind of worked. So might work for you too. I hope it does.
I'm just mindful of the time, but I will take a couple of last questions. One from Lauren. I'm currently a primary school teacher, and I'm wondering what the work-life balance is like as a UX designer compared to being a teacher previously.
You're going to miss the holidays. I'm not going to lie. I miss the holidays so bad. But obviously, it depends. It depends on your work-life balance as a teacher. Did I meet any teachers who had a good work-life balance? Yeah, kind of, maybe 1 or 2. But how you're always working weekends. You don't have those 6 weeks off, not really. So with this job, you have less holiday time, which is also not great. But at the same time, you have that flexibility with it. And kind of working as an agency and working with 2 projects, I know that the next few weeks, my work-life balance is kind of going to be tilted, particularly because I'm still learning. But I think you can make it work. It's not like being a teacher where you kind of go home and you think about the kids all the time. And I'm sorry, I feel like I'm just talking to you because I'm like, you're a teacher, so I get you. You're not thinking about the kids all the time. You're not thinking about, oh God, I could be doing this, I could be doing that, or my head teacher's putting me under this, that, and the other. I kind of can step back from my work and say, okay, that's it for now. I'm done. So that's also quite good. Don't know if it answered the question, but I see you.
I'll also take one question from YouTube because this is also being streamed on YouTube.
Oh, well, you didn't tell me that.
Is it necessary? This is a very specific question. Is it necessary to build personas in every project? Somehow I prefer to do competitive analysis like always. That's a very specific question.
It is. And I kind of have an answer for that. I mean, like, it's nice, but it's also not gospel. We don't always have time to do it. As I say, if we've got a 3-week burst, it's like, get it done, go. But then you kind of have to be mindful of beyond the user persona, because you may have seen that thing. This is why I love LinkedIn. It's relentlessly positive, yes, but this is why I love it, because you follow those people and they put up these memes. And one of them was like, a man who's 73 who lives in Britain, who lives in a mansion or whatever like that, and it's like, okay, here's my user persona. It's like the same user persona, but one person was Ozzy Osbourne and one of them was Prince Charles, and they are 2 clearly very different people. So it's an aspect of it, obviously, but you can't take that as gospel. It does help. And actually, Will, you were telling me earlier about how Emerson did some really good user personas for CareerFoundry that you guys found really helpful. So maybe you can chime in there.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, also for CareerFoundry, because we have lots of customers from all over the world and also from lots of different backgrounds, also at different stages in their career. So it was very helpful for the marketing team to have a set of personas to understand CareerFoundry's, prospective students who are coming through. So you can just see how something like that is a great kind of interaction between a UX designer, a UX writer, and also the marketing team. It kind of flows through the team, and the marketing team aren't just sat there thinking, okay, who are our prospective customers or students. And so it was really good in terms of like visualizing who's out there basically. Charlotte, I'm mindful of the time. Thank you so much for the presentation. I think that went into a lot of depth, and thank you so much for also sharing all the books links, which I will be sending around to everybody who attended and those who didn't attend tomorrow via email. Thank you also for everybody who is joining in the audience. Some really great questions there, and I'm sorry that we didn't get around to all of them, but I hope that we managed to get a good proportion of the questions answered. Very quickly, at the moment in April and also through to May, we're offering a career change scholarship for our UX and UI design programs. And if you're interested in that, or if you've got any questions about the curriculum, or maybe CareerFoundry's dual mentorship model, or job guarantee, or jobs in your locality, I would recommend clicking that sticky note in the top right-hand corner, and you can book a call with a program advisor. They're very, very friendly. They're on the call, and they will answer any questions that you may have about the industry or the UX design program that Charlotte did, or any other questions, basically. They're happy to chat. So book a call there. And Charlotte, once again, thank you so much for attending this evening, presenting. And I'm just going to shamelessly say we've also got other events lined up, and a good source of information is the CareerFoundry blog. We've got 3 or 4 excellent copywriters who are writing lots of different articles about UX design, all the other stuff we do. And there's the CareerFoundry YouTube channel where you can watch lots of little videos where you might see some familiar faces. It has been rumored. So with that said, have a lovely evening, everybody, or morning, or wherever you're joining from. And we will see you again next time. Charlotte, thanks.
Thank you.
And